Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All things Middle Earth here. And if you are in season 1 and opening any Mathoms, there is this Mathom Peddler's Blessing. You can see it right here next to the chest up at the left side of the chest here. So if you click on this, it's going to show you that you get rewards after you open a certain amount of chests at 10, 30, and 60. So at 10, you get some tier 1 epic commanders. At 30, you get one of these legendary commanders, tier 2 commanders. And at 60, you get one of these tier 3 commanders. Now, I want to talk about these three because I feel like if players are new to the game and they get one of these commanders, they may not know who is worth investing in, how to build them, if any of them are worth investing in. So in this video, I want to talk about these commanders, which ones, if any, are worth investing in, and show you how to build them. So stay tuned. That's coming up in just 1 second. Now, speaking of spending, if you are spending in Rise to War currently, I do have a top-up link. That's what you see behind me. This is an affiliate link. If you use the link, it does support the channel. It costs nothing extra to use this link, and it's actually cheaper in some parts of the world. So check it out if you haven't already. If you're not spending, obviously doesn't apply, but hit that like button, subscribe, because that stuff helps support the channel as well. But now into the video. Now, I wish this was a really long video because that would probably mean that we're actually going through build guides for all these commanders because they're all great. And, you know, NetEase is giving us some really awesome. Unfortunately not. There's really only one of these commanders we're going to actually look at. I'm just going to say it right off the bat, Radagast and Treebeard are not good commanders. And if this is your 60 pull, I'm sorry, but do not invest in them any further. Now, just to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about, because I don't want to just say things and, you know, have you guys believe me. I mean, hopefully you do, but I want to show you what I'm talking about. So for Radagast, the reason Radagast is not great is because the things he does best are healing based. So he has the Brown, which is a healing skill, as well as healer. So another healing skill, and healing is just not that good in this game right now. I hope it changes. I think that'd be great. I think it would make a lot of commanders viable, and I hope one day Radagast is a decent healer. He does have Wizard, which does focus damage, so this can be a good damage skill, but he really has nothing else going for him. His R5 is for large unit attack, and if you've heard me at all on the channel, you know that units are just not the way right now. It's really about commander damage and then supporting those commanders that do damage. So Radagast with 2 healing skills is just not it. And Treebeard is also just not great. It's actually a bummer. Treebeard, I mean, both of them are iconic characters, but Treebeard could be such a cool physical damage dealer. He has 1 physical damage skill, which is okay, but then that's literally it. This is focus and defense up. This is attack of large units, and this is deal focus damage. So he has a physical damage skill and a focus damage skill. It's just not good, and honestly, it's a shame. Like, Treebeard should absolutely be reworked because he's an iconic character, and he should be one of the better damage commanders in the game. Physical damage, he's a freaking int. But anyway, Treebeard and Radagast, they're not going to be ones we invest in. Now, the one we are going to look at is going to be Galadriel. Now, Galadriel is not the best commander in the game. However, she is a damage commander. Her first 2 skills, Mistress of Magic and Lady of Lorien, are both damage skills, so she is viable. Her other 2 skills are healing skills, so if healing ever gets made decent, she could actually be really cool. But we are just going to focus on her damage skills and how to build her that way. Now, this is actually the first focus damage or elemental damage commander we've covered, so I want to make sure I explain what we're doing here. So first of all, you see it says focus damage. We don't have anything about physical damage, so we have some focus damage, some madness, all that stuff. And if we go to stats, we can see here, if we look at attack, this affects physical damage. So what we want instead is focus, which affects focus, burn, and poison damage. So that's kind of what when I say elemental damage, I mean those 3 things. So we want high focus on her, and we still want to look for damage as well to boost her damage abilities. Now, I didn't show it yet, but I'll put up on the screen here. This is a cheat sheet I made for Galadriel. This will be down in the description below. I make these for all the commanders we do standalone videos for, so I thought I'd make one for Galadriel since she's kind of getting a standalone video here. So check that out. Use it as a reference. If you happen to pull Galadriel and you want to share it around, feel free to do so. Now, starting out, I hopped over here so you guys could see the text. We're going to start with Lady of Lorien. I think it's pretty close on which one you can go for, but this one does have a 50% chance to inflict madness, which is actually pretty decent. So we're going to go with this one first, followed by Mistress of Magic. Now, I put it on the sheet as well, but Galadriel really only needs to be at respect 2 to be used, which is kind of nice for a tier 3 or mythic commander. The only reason she needs to be at R2 instead of just at R1 or 0 is because you want to be able to take her to the max level. And if you are respect 0, the level cap is 30. If you respect 1, the level cap is 40. So you need respect 2 to actually be able to unlock all their levels and have them to level 50. So respect 2, which is pretty good. So again, if you were to pull her, I'd probably push her to 2 and just keep her there and use her as a focus damage dealer. Now, as far as gear goes, like I said, we're looking for damage up at the top as well as focus. So these are the best in slot pieces for focus damage dealers. Technically, this Great Blade of the East is the second best, but Galadriel can't wear the best. It has the evil aura effect on it, so it can't be used by certain elven commanders. So for elven commanders that do focus like Galadriel, she can't, but everyone else is going to use the protection of Numenor. But this is the best in slot lineup for focus gold gear things you want to keep your eye out for. But again, we're just looking through and seeing commander focus as well as damage as much as possible. Like we know, armor and helmets don't have the damage at the top, so HP is fine there. So we have focus here, we have focus there, and then here we have more damage and focus on the fine smoking pipe. Now, as far as blue gear goes, this is the best in slot blue setup. So if you're brand new and you happen to pull Galadriel pretty early and want to know what to use on her, we're going to look for things that have focus. So we have the Ranger's Dagger, we have the Garrison Coat, we have the Old Cask, and the Round Shield doesn't have focus, but there's only 2 accessory options for blue, and I think this is the better of the 2 for commanders who are doing damage. So we're going to go with the Round Shield. But this is kind of the starting point, and we want to work up looking for those purple or gold items that you see on the sheet that I showed you on screen. Now, as far as set effects go, we have a couple of offensive suggestions, and then other defensive ones can be good as well. But first up is going to be Lore of the Arcane. This is going to increase the burn, poison, and focus damage dealt by this formation by 5%. So up to 10 if you have 2 sets that have Lore of the Arcane, but it is a 2 out of 2 sets. You can only, if you can only make, half the set, that's fine. You can run another half set of something else. So that is the first one. Next up is going to be Perseverance. Now, Perseverance is a universal damage ability. It could be for physical or focus or whatever it is, but it just deals 2% damage each round, and that stacks up. So first round it's 2%, next round it's 4, 6, all the way to 20. So if commanders are more likely to draw out or like to have long battles, Perseverance is very good for them. But if there's someone like the Shadow we talked about, who definitely does more of their damage on the early side, it's not the best ability. So for Galadriel, none of her abilities specify anything about being early or late. So assuming that doesn't matter, Perseverance is a great damage effect for her. And then last but not least, we're going to look at some kind of defensive abilities. This is the same thing as Perseverance, but on the defensive side. So every 2 rounds is going to reduce damage that comes in by 2% up to 20 at the end. So that can be pretty helpful as well. And other things like evasive action, fortitude, anything just reduces damage coming in is always a safe bet if you can't make these offensive sets. And as far as Galadriel's Relic goes, I'll make this short and sweet. Again, outside of the base stats being decent, because there are 3 commander ones, it's a ring that's going to boost her healing, which listed at all, that healing is just not great. So it says each round the first 2 instances of focus damage to up Galadriel gain follow-up healing, which restore 20% HP to the commander's unit formation once, so up to 120. Again, it's just not worth doing. It is not worth investing in. It's not worth refining. Healing is just not it right now. Netties, if you're watching, seriously, so many more commanders would become viable or just become much better if healing was a thing. I don't understand why it's not. So we really need healing to be fixed in this game, because that would make probably a dozen, if not more, commanders viable, which means more people would probably be opening Mathoms. It's a win-win. I don't know. I've said it a bunch, but healing's not it, so the Relic is going to get a fail. Now, as far as troops go, like you guys have heard me say in our other good videos, we're going to go with Guardians. They are a cheap, cost-effective, but bulky troop. So everyone in this army, so Galadriel and every other commander in here, are going to use some Guardians on them, unless someone else in the army is specifying other troop types. So if you're using a Gil-galad and he wants elves, obviously use elves. So if someone else calls or something, that's fine. But if there's nobody asking for a specific troop type, we're going to go ahead and run Guardians. Now, as far as where to run Galadriel, this is our template we made for kind of starting out, especially on the good side. These are commanders you're probably going to have access to pretty early. We also did some videos talking about evil commanders. Now, if you're playing non-role play, the goal is just to have roughly 2 damage and 2 support. But here we show examples of having up to 3 damage and 1 support, or like I said, 2 and 2. So if you happen to get Galadriel, she is a full damage commander. She can be plugged into any of these lineups that say damage. And again, kind of balances out as well as you can with your support commanders. I will say, however, it is worth noting support commanders like Boromir and Merry and Pippin don't boost Galadriel because she does focus damage. So Horn of Gondor, for example, it says attack of 3 allied formations plus 18 for 1 round. Now, attack, again, like we know, boosts physical damage. So this ability would not affect Galadriel. Now, Warden, 3 allied units gain a chance to get evasion. That's fine. So she will get support from this ability. But bear in mind, if you do get Galadriel or any focus damage dealers, support commanders like Boromir and Merry and Pippin that have that attack boost, that portion of their support abilities won't affect her. So if you want my suggestion for who I would run if I was new and I got Galadriel, and assuming I'm starting to get some tier 1 commanders, I'd put something like this together where I run Hirgon as a hybrid support damage. So we'd run this support skill Warden with one of his physical damage abilities, so he'd be a half support, half damage. I'd also run someone like Eowyn who has Shield Maiden. This is going to make melee units have a chance in 3 formations of gaining plus 42 defense each round, up to 50% chance here if you get to level 5, and then one of her damage abilities as well. So she'd also be someone who is a half damage, half support. I then run someone like Arwen with him with her R5, which is going to be a support, as well as Lady of Rivendell, which will be a focus damage ability for her. So she'd also be half damage, half support. So right now we're at 1.5 damage and 1.5 support. And then I'd bring Galadriel in to fill it out, who is full damage. So we'd be at 2.5 damage and 1.5 support with that lineup. I talked about just one example, but just kind of showing you guys how you can piece things together and find commanders who have kind of a hybrid support thing going on. That's what I would do, or at least one example of what I would try to do if I happen to pull Galadriel in my new account. Which, by the way, speaking of a new account, we are starting a brand new free-to-play experience very soon live on stream, so stay tuned for that. But I'll be starting a Season 1 account and playing through, testing out all these things we've been talking about this month, so stay tuned for that happening very, very soon. But that will pretty much do it for our video on the Mathom Peddler's Blessing. Again, it doesn't really feel like a blessing, and again, that is, if you are watching all the way through this, I would really suggest putting some better commanders in here if we're not going to fix some of these other guys. There really should be good commanders in here, so when you pull your first 60, you're starting off with someone really good who you can invest into long term. These commanders just aren't really it. Like I said, Galadriel we're going to take respect to, but Radagast and Treebeard are just going to get fails for me. But hopefully you guys like the video to kind of show how I built Galadriel, who I'd run her with, just all kinds of these kind of things. So hopefully the pieces of this puzzle are starting to come together if you're new to the game and kind of learning the mechanics. But let me know if you guys have any questions down in the comments below and what other types of content you'd like covered this month. But that'll do it for this one, and I'll see you guys in a future video.